There is a place on Earth where two oceans collide, where the desert ends in turquoise water, where whales swim up to humans willingly, where rays leap from the sea like birds, and where cacti grow taller than houses and live longer than empires. This is Baja California. A thin sliver of land stretching 1,247 kilometers down the western edge of North America. It is the second longest peninsula on Earth. Yet, within this narrow ribbon of land lies more biodiversity and more raw, untouched beauty than you will find in entire countries 10 times its size. "5 million years ago, this peninsula did not exist. It was fused to mainland Mexico. Then the Earth tore apart along the San Andreas Fault, and a sea poured into the wound. Baja began drifting into isolation, and it is still moving today. In 10 million years, it will be an island. On one side stretches the wild Pacific Ocean. On the other lies the Sea of Cortez, the body of water Jacques Cousteau called the aquarium of the world. Nearly 1/3 of all marine mammal species on Earth swim through these waters. Between the two seas lies one of the most extreme deserts on the planet, where life survives on its own stubborn terms. This is a cinematic journey through 35 of the most extraordinary places in Baja California. From desert to sea, from past to present, from the edge of the world to the meeting point of two oceans. This is Baja California. Let us begin. At the very northern edge of Baja California, the peninsula does not end with a coast, it ends with a border. Tijuana is one of the busiest border crossings on Earth, with over 50 million crossings every single year between Mexico and the United States. The city grew explosively during the American Prohibition era of the 1920s, when visitors poured south for everything that was forbidden north of the line. Alcohol, gambling, and nightlife. Today, nearly 2 million people call Tijuana home, making it the largest city on the entire peninsula. It is a place of constant motion where industry, art, and street food culture collide. A towering steel wall marks the border itself, running across hills, plunging into valleys, and finally marching straight into the waves of the Pacific Ocean. Where the wall meets the sea at Playas de Tijuana, something remarkable happens every weekend. Families gather on both sides of the barrier, separated by steel bars, yet close enough to press their fingers together and speak. It is one of the most human places on Earth, where the line between two nations becomes painfully visible. and where the ocean continues on, indifferent to the borders that humans have drawn across the land. Just 30 kilometers south of Tijuana, the rocky border city dissolves into long golden beaches. Rosarito Beach began as a quiet fishing village with a single dirt road. Then, during Prohibition, Hollywood discovered it. Movie stars drove south to escape the law, and the sleepy village transformed into a glamorous coastal escape almost overnight. The Rosarito Beach Hotel, built in 1925, once hosted legends like Marilyn Monroe, Orson Welles and Rita Hayworth, and its old walls still echo with that golden age elegance. But Rosarito's connection to film runs even deeper. Just outside town stands Baja Studios, built in 1996 specifically for the filming of the blockbuster Titanic. It contains the largest filming water tank in the world, holding 65 million liters of water against a seamless horizon, designed so that ocean and sky blend into one. Since then, the studio has produced dozens of major Hollywood films. Today, Rosarito blends three identities into one: the surf culture of its Pacific waves, the ghosts of Hollywood's golden age, and the slow, sun-soaked rhythm of a coastal town that grew up almost entirely by accident, riding the strange tides of history. Continuing south, the coastline opens into one of Baja's most important port cities. Ensenada sits on a wide natural harbor, one of the few places on this rugged coast where serious maritime activity could take root and flourish. Today, it is among the busiest ports on the peninsula, handling commercial cargo, sprawling fishing fleets, and a steady stream of cruise ships arriving from California. But Ensenada's greatest gift to the world is found not at sea, but on a plate. The original Mexican fish taco was invented here in the mid-20th century, when local fishermen battered and fried their fresh catch and served it straight from harbor stalls, wrapped in a warm tortilla with lime and salsa. That simple creation has since traveled across the globe. Just south of the city lies one of nature's most dramatic performances, La Bufadora, one of the largest marine blowholes in all of North America. When powerful Pacific waves surge into a hidden sea cave, the water has nowhere to escape but upward. It explodes vertically into the sky, sometimes reaching more than 25 meters in height, followed a half second later by a deep, thunderous roar. The name means the buffalo's snort, named for the sound it makes as it fires again and again with every wave that rolls in from the open ocean. Just inland from Ensenada lies a valley that almost no one associates with Mexico. The Valle de Guadalupe is the beating heart of Mexican wine country, and its existence is the result of a rare and perfect accident of climate. Each night, cool Pacific fog rolls in over the hills, lowering the temperature and wrapping the vines in moisture. Mornings remain misty and grey. Then the afternoons bring warmth and brilliant sun. This Mediterranean rhythm, shaped entirely by the nearby ocean, creates ideal conditions for growing wine grapes. The story began centuries ago when Spanish missionaries planted the first vines here to produce sacramental wine, making this one of the oldest wine-growing regions in all of the Americas. What started as a small experiment has since exploded into the center of an entire industry. Today, more than 150 wineries operate across the valley's rolling hills, producing over 70% of all Mexican wine. The architecture alone is worth the journey. Modern wineries built from rusted steel, raw concrete, and weathered wood rise from the dry earth like sculptures, blending into the landscape rather than fighting against it. At sunset, with the fog beginning to creep over the ridges and the vines glowing gold, the Valle de Guadalupe feels like a secret the rest of the world has yet to discover. Far above the desert heat, the peninsula rises into mountains so unexpected they seem to belong to another country entirely. The Sierra de San Pedro Martir climbs to 3,096 meters at its highest point. Picacho del Diablo, the Devil's Peak, the tallest summit in all of Baja California. Here, the world transforms completely. Forests of pine and fir blanket the slopes. The air turns cold and thin. And in winter, snow settles silently across the peaks, a sight that feels impossible to anyone who just drove through the scorching desert below. The transformation happens in the space of a single winding road. Cactus and dust give way to alpine forest and crisp mountain air within an hour's drive. This range is also home to some of Baja's most precious wildlife. The endangered California condor, the largest flying bird in North America, with a wingspan approaching 3 meters, was reintroduced to these mountains and now soars once more above the peaks. Bighorn sheep navigate the rocky cliffs and mule deer move through the forests. It was here, far from the glow of any city, that Mexico built its National Astronomical Observatory in the 1970s. Drawn by some of the clearest, darkest night skies on the continent. The contrast is absolute. Desert below, alpine forest above, and the entire universe overhead. On the upper reaches of the Sea of Cortez sits the small fishing town of San Felipe, a place ruled entirely by the rhythm of the tides. The tidal range here is among the most extreme in all of Mexico. The sea can retreat for kilometers, exposing vast, glistening flats of wet sand and seabed, where fishing boats sit stranded, waiting for the water to return. A stretch of beach that lies beneath the waves in the morning can become dry walking ground by afternoon, only to vanish under the ocean again by nightfall. For most of its history, San Felipe was a remote and isolated fishing outpost, connected to the rest of Baja by nothing more than rough desert tracks. A proper road did not arrive until the 1950s, and tourism slowly trickled in behind it. The waters here were once home to the vaquita, the world's smallest and most endangered porpoise found nowhere else on Earth. Fewer than a dozen individuals are believed to remain, making it the rarest marine mammal on the planet and a heartbreaking symbol of how fragile life in the Gulf can be. Today, San Felipe remains modest and unhurried, defined by warm, shallow water, wide, empty beaches, and a fishing fleet that still heads out each dawn, just as it always has. In the heart of the peninsula lies one of the strangest desert landscapes anywhere on Earth. Valle de los Chirios, the Valley of the Candles, is a vast protected biosphere reserve, covering more than 25,000 square kilometers, making it one of the largest protected areas in all of Mexico. It takes its name from the towering cardon cactus, the largest species of cactus in the world. Some of these giants rise more than 18 meters into the sky, taller than most trees, with thick arms reaching outward like the branches of a candelabra. A single cardon can live for over 200 years and weigh several tons, the vast majority of that weight being water stored deep inside its ribbed, accordion-like trunk. The cactus grows with astonishing patience, sometimes adding only a few centimeters of height each year. Which means the towering giants standing here today were already ancient when the first Spanish missionaries arrived. This desert is far from empty. Desert bighorn sheep pick their way across the rocky terrain. The endangered pronghorn, one of the fastest land animals in North America, survives in scattered herds. Red-tailed hawks circle overhead, and at night, kit foxes and coyotes emerge to hunt. Valle de los Chirios is a living museum of survival. A place where every plant and animal has been sculpted by the harsh and beautiful logic of the desert. Among the cardon cacti grows a plant so bizarre it looks like something dreamed up by a science fiction artist. The boojum tree is one of the strangest living things in all of North America, and it exists almost nowhere else on the planet. It does not grow straight or follow any logic we recognize. Instead, it twists upward in irregular, tapering trunks that can reach over 15 meters in height. Some lean drunkenly to one side, Some curve back on themselves in impossible directions. Others split into pale, ghostly branches that seem to reach toward the sky like grasping fingers. For most of the year, the Bujum appears completely dead, a bare, grey spire standing silent in the sand. Then, after one of the desert's rare rains, it bursts into life, sprouting small green leaves and delicate clusters of pale yellow flowers near its crown. The plant was so strange to early explorers that they named it after a creature from Lewis Carroll's nonsense poem, The Hunting of the Snark. The Bujum is perfectly adapted to its harsh home, drawing moisture from coastal fog and storing water within its swollen trunk to survive the long rainless months. It is found only here in the central deserts of Baja and in one tiny corner of mainland Mexico, a living symbol of just how strange and unique this peninsula truly is. Near the center of the peninsula, the desert breaks open into something that defies belief. Catavina is a vast field of massive granite boulders scattered across the desert floor as if dropped by giants. Some are the size of houses, some balance impossibly on narrow points, seeming to defy gravity itself. Others have split cleanly down the middle, as though sliced by an invisible blade. The story of these boulders began millions of years ago, deep underground, when molten magma cooled slowly into enormous bodies of solid granite. Over countless ages, the softer rock and soil that once covered them eroded away, grain by grain, carried off by wind and the red desert rain. The boulders were never placed here. They were revealed. They are simply what remained after everything softer was stripped away by the patient hand of time. Between the rocks grow towering cardon cacti and twisted Bujum trees, creating a landscape unlike anywhere else on Earth. But Catavina holds an even older secret. Hidden in the shelter of the rock overhangs are cave paintings created by indigenous peoples over 1,000 years ago. Geometric patterns, human figures, and animal forms painted in red, black, and white still cling to the stone. Protected from sun and wind, silent messages from people who walked this desert long before any European ever did. On the Sea of Cortez coast lies a quiet bay that conceals one of the greatest wildlife spectacles on the planet. Bahia de Los Angeles, the Bay of the Angels, is sheltered by a protective chain of 16 islands that guard it from the open Gulf, keeping its waters calm, warm, and extraordinarily rich with life. Every summer, the largest fish in the ocean arrives. Whale sharks, reaching lengths of up to 12 meters and weighing several tons, gather here in remarkable numbers to feed. Despite their enormous size, these gentle giants are filter feeders. gliding slowly through the bay with their massive mouths open, straining clouds of plankton from the water. They pose no threat to humans, and snorkelers can swim alongside them in waist-deep water, dwarfed by creatures the size of buses. But the whale sharks are only the beginning. The bay teems with dolphins, sea lions, and during certain seasons, fin whales, the second largest animal on Earth. Ospreys nest atop the rocky islands, and the surrounding waters shelter 5 species of sea turtle. The town itself remains tiny, home to fewer than 800 people, with no chain hotels or sprawling resorts to disturb the peace. At night, the sky here is among the darkest in all of North America, and the Milky Way blazes overhead in breathtaking clarity, mirrored by the bioluminescent glow that sometimes shimmers in the water below. Where the desert seems least able to support any life at all, a miracle appears. San Ignacio is a true oasis, where thousands of date palms rise from the dry land, fed by a freshwater spring that has flowed here for centuries. The palms were planted by Jesuit missionaries hundreds of years ago, and they still shade the town today. At the heart of this green sanctuary stands one of the best preserved missions on the entire peninsula. Built in the late 18th century from blocks of dark volcanic stone, its walls are nearly a meter thick. A deliberate design meant to hold back the punishing desert heat and keep the interior cool. The mission took decades to complete, an extraordinary feat in a place so remote that every tool, every craftsman, and every sack of mortar had to be hauled across hundreds of kilometers of brutal wilderness. The small town still gathers in the deep shade of the palms, its life centered on the same precious spring that made human settlement possible in the first place. The mission has now stood for more than 240 years, an island of stone, water, and faith in an endless ocean of desert. Walking beneath its ancient arches, surrounded by birdsong and the rustle of palm fronds, it is easy to understand why the missionaries believed this place was touched by something divine. Hidden deep in the mountains behind San Ignacio lies some of the most important and mysterious prehistoric cave paintings in all of the Americas. The rock art of the Sierra de San Francisco was created between 1,100 and 7,500 years ago by an ancient people who vanished long before the Spanish ever arrived. A culture so old that even the indigenous groups the missionaries encountered had no memory of who painted them. The paintings cover hundreds of cave walls and rock shelters scattered across a vast and rugged mountain region. Reachable today only by mule along narrow trails. The images are staggering in both scale and detail. Towering figures of humans appear alongside deer, mountain sheep, rabbits, whales, and birds, rendered in deep reds, blacks, and whites. Some of the human figures stand more than 2 meters tall. Painted so high on the cave walls and ceilings that researchers believe the artists must have built scaffolding or ladders to reach them. The meaning behind the paintings remains a profound mystery. Were they records of great hunts, spiritual visions, maps of the cosmos? No one knows. The people who made them left behind no written language, only these haunting images frozen on stone for thousands of years. In 1993, UNESCO recognized the site as a World Heritage Location, honoring it as one of the most significant collections of ancient art on the entire planet. Continuing south along the Pacific coast, the landscape suddenly flattens into endless horizons. Guerrero Negro is home to the largest salt production operation on the entire planet. Vast geometric ponds stretch across the desert for kilometers. Separated by thin earthen walls, creating a surreal grid that looks almost alien from above. The process is elegant in its simplicity. Seawater is drawn in from the coast and channeled through a series of shallow evaporation basins. Under the relentless sun and dry air, the water slowly vanishes, leaving pure white salt crystals behind. The operation produces more than 9 million tons of salt every year, shipped across the globe. Yet Guerrero Negro holds a secret far more magical than industry. The same protected lagoons that feed the salt works also serve as one of the most important wildlife nurseries on Earth. Each winter, gray whales travel thousands of kilometers from the frozen Arctic to give birth in the calm, sheltered waters of Laguna Ojo de Liebre, right beside the salt flats. The lagoon also draws tens of thousands of migratory birds, ospreys, herons, egrets, and the elegant black brant geese that depend on these wetlands during their long journeys. It is an unlikely and beautiful meeting of heavy human industry and one of the last great wildlife sanctuaries on the continent, coexisting side by side. On the Pacific side of the peninsula, a sheltered lagoon called Laguna San Ignacio fills each winter with giants. Gray whales arrive here after completing one of the longest migrations of any mammal on Earth. An epic journey of more than 16,000 kilometers from the icy feeding grounds of the Arctic. They come for one purpose: to give birth. The lagoon, shielded from the violent swells of the open ocean, becomes a vast and peaceful nursery. For weeks, mothers gently guide their newborn calves to the surface to breathe, patiently teaching them how to swim, dive, and navigate the world they have just entered. And here, something happens that occurs almost nowhere else on Earth. The whales seek out humans. They swim up to the small boats of their own free will, lifting their massive heads above the water and allowing visitors to reach out and touch them. Mothers have even been seen pushing their curious calves toward the boats, as if making introductions. What makes this behavior truly astonishing is the history of these waters. Just over a century ago, this lagoon was a whaling ground, where these very animals were hunted so relentlessly that the species was driven to the brink of extinction. That the whales now return year after year and willingly approach the descendants of those who once hunted them is one of the most moving and mysterious stories in all of the natural world. A quiet act of forgiveness written across the sea. Returning to the eastern shore, the peninsula reveals its deep and dramatic colonial history. In the year 1697, Jesuit missionaries founded the very first permanent European settlement in the Californias here at Loreto. For nearly 130 years, this small town served as the capital of the Californias, the political and spiritual heart of an entire region. From this single point, a chain of missions slowly extended northward, stretching all the way into what is now the American state of California. Every famous California mission town, from San Diego to San Francisco, traces its origin directly back to this humble settlement on the shores of the Sea of Cortez. For centuries, Loreto could be reached only by ship. The rugged roads inland would not come until much later. The town today remains compact and charming, nestled between the calm turquoise waters of the Gulf and the dramatic rising slopes of the Sierra de la Giganta. The original mission church, built in 1697, still stands proudly at the center of town. Its stone walls weathered but unbroken, still hosting worshippers after more than 325 years. Just offshore lies Loreto Bay National Marine Park, a protected sanctuary where blue whales, dolphins, and sea turtles thrive, ensuring that the natural wealth that first drew people here remains for generations to come. Hidden deep in the rugged mountains behind Loreto stands one of the most perfectly preserved missions in all of Baja California. Misión San Francisco. Javier de Villay-Biondo was built between 1744 and 1759. Deep within the harsh interior, surrounded on all sides by steep and unforgiving hills. Even today, it is reached only by a long, winding road that crosses one of the most remote and dramatic stretches of the entire peninsula. The mission's design speaks of permanence and endurance. The stone walls are thick and the lines are simple, built to withstand the brutal heat, the crushing isolation and the slow erosion of time itself. Every block of stone was cut and carried by hand, and the construction spanned decades in a place impossibly far from any easy source of labor or materials. Unlike so many missions across the Americas that were damaged, abandoned, or rebuilt over the centuries, San Javier has survived almost entirely intact, exactly as its builders left it. In its quiet courtyard grows a gnarled olive tree, said to have been planted by the missionaries themselves, still bearing fruit after more than 260 years. To stand before San Javier is to feel time slow down. It does not feel like a monument or a tourist site. It feels like a building that has simply been waiting patiently for the world to find its way back to it. Further south along the Sea of Cortez coast, the mountains press in close around the water, creating one of the most beautiful coastlines in all of Mexico. Baja Concepcion is a long, curving inlet, sheltered and embraced by the dramatic ridges of the Sierra de la Giganta. The bay stretches more than 40 kilometers from end to end, and along its protected shoreline open a series of small, perfect coves, each cradling its own crescent of soft white sand. The water here puts on a mesmerizing display of color, shifting from deep cobalt blue in the center to brilliant, glowing turquoise near the shore. There is little vegetation along these shores. The bare desert cliffs meet the sea directly, creating a stark and stunning contrast between rock, sand, and water. The bay is so calm and the water so crystal clear that boats anchored in the coves appear to float on air rather than on the sea beneath them. The shallows teem with life. Rays glide across the sandy bottom. Schools of fish flash in the sunlight, and ospreys dive from above to snatch their prey. Many travelers who have driven the entire length of Baja, from the northern border to the southern tip, agree without hesitation that Baja Concepcion is the single most beautiful stretch of coastline on the whole peninsula. Now we turn fully to the water itself, for it is the true soul of this land. The Sea of Cortez is unlike any other body of water on Earth. It was not slowly carved from above by rivers and erosion. It was violently pulled apart from below, born from the same tectonic forces that tore Baja from the mainland. Those fault lines created a chain of deep undersea basins, some plunging more than 3,000 meters down into total, crushing darkness. Because the Gulf is long, narrow, and partly sealed off from the open Pacific, it holds its own unique currents, temperatures, and nutrients. The result is one of the single richest marine ecosystems found anywhere on the planet. When Jacques Cousteau called it the aquarium of the world, he was not exaggerating in the slightest. Nearly 1/3 of all the marine mammal species on Earth can be found within these waters. Whales, dolphins, sea lions, and porpoises. More than 900 species of fish swim here, and astonishingly, around 90 of them exist nowhere else on the planet. The sea is geologically young, far younger than most mountain ranges, yet it brims with more life than oceans 10 times its age. Every layer of this ecosystem connects to the next, from the invisible plankton blooms to the largest animals that have ever lived. All sustained by the cold, nutrient-rich water rising from the dark basins below. In certain seasons, the surface of the Sea of Cortez erupts into a spectacle so surreal it seems to break the laws of nature. Mobula rays, sleek, dark relatives of the manta, gather in colossal schools numbering in the tens of thousands. They glide together just beneath the surface in perfect hypnotic formation, a living shadow moving across the sea. Then, without any warning, they begin to fly, one by one and then by the hundreds. The rays launch their bodies clear out of the water, leaping several meters into the air before crashing back down with a sharp crack that sounds like distant applause echoing across the bay. For a brief, breathtaking moment, the air itself fills with flying rays suspended between sea and sky. To this day, no one fully agrees on why they do it. Some scientists believe leaping helps dislodge parasites from their skin. Others suspect it is a form of communication, the loud slaps carrying messages across the water. Some think it is part of an elaborate courtship and mating display, while others wonder if it might simply be done for the sheer joy of it. It may well be all of these reasons at once. The Great Mobula Ray Migration remains one of the most spectacular and genuinely mysterious wildlife events anywhere on Earth. A phenomenon that draws scientists and travelers alike to witness the impossible sight of a sea that has learned to fly. Just offshore from the city of La Paz, a chain of islands stretches out into the Sea of Cortez. And the crown jewel among them is Isla Espiritu Santo. Its dramatic cliffs glow in shades of deep red and burnt ochre during the early morning and late afternoon light. The result of ancient volcanic rock exposed by millions of years of relentless erosion. The colors lie in distinct horizontal layers, almost like a geological diary written into the very face of the stone, recording the island's ancient and violent birth. As the Gulf slowly opened over the ages, fragments of land were torn away from the peninsula, left isolated and alone in the sea. Espiritu Santo is one of those orphaned fragments. Cut off from the mainland, its plants and animals followed their own separate evolutionary paths over thousands of years. And as a result, several species found here exist nowhere else on Earth, including a tiny endemic species of ringtail. Today, the island's greatest treasure is a thriving colony of California sea lions that live on its rocky northern point. Over generations, these playful animals have grown completely comfortable around humans. and they often approach snorkelers and divers with pure curiosity. Twisting and spinning through the water in an underwater ballet, nipping playfully at fins and blowing streams of bubbles. The island has never been permanently settled by humans, which is precisely why it remains so wild, so pristine, and so utterly untouched. On the western shore of the Gulf sits La Paz, the capital of Baja California Sur, and a city with a soul all its own. It carries a quieter, gentler character than the flashier destinations to the south. Its name means peace, and for once, the name fits perfectly. Spanish explorers first arrived here in the 16th century, drawn by a sheltered bay with calm waters and rumors of pearls. But isolation, drought, and disease made early settlement almost impossible. And for centuries, La Paz teetered on the very edge of survival, its settlements rising and collapsing again and again. Only in the 19th century did the city finally take firm root and begin to grow, eventually becoming famous across the world for its magnificent black pearls. At the heart of the city stands the Cathedral of Our Lady of Peace, built in 1865. Anchoring a plaza ringed with low colonial buildings. But the true soul of La Paz is its malecón, a beautiful seafront promenade that stretches for 5 kilometers along the water's edge. Every evening, as the sun sinks toward the horizon, families pour onto the malecón to walk, to eat fresh seafood, and to watch the sky catch fire over the bay. The waters just offshore are a gateway to wonders. It is from here that travelers set out to swim with whale sharks, dive with sea lions, and witness the flying rays, making La Paz the perfect peaceful base for exploring the wild abundance of the Gulf. A short distance east of La Paz, the rugged coastline opens into what many consider the single most beautiful beach in all of Mexico. Playa Balandra is a shallow, protected bay where the water glows in impossible shades of pale turquoise and soft pastel blue. But what truly sets Balandra apart is not just its color. It is its astonishing shallowness. You can wade out hundreds of meters from the shore and still find the water rising only to your knees. The seabed slopes so gradually and so gently that the entire bay feels like a vast, warm wading pool stretched across paradise itself. Sunlight pierces all the way to the bottom, illuminating the pale rippled sand and casting dancing patterns of light across the seafloor. Because the water is so warm, calm and shallow, the bay serves as a vital nursery for young fish and rays. And snorkelers often spot juvenile sea life sheltering in the protected shallows. Rising from the center of this serene bay stands a single sculpted rock balanced delicately on a narrow stem. El hongo de balandra, the mushroom of balandra. Shaped patiently over thousands of years by the gentle pressure of wind and waves, it has become a beloved symbol of the entire peninsula. The bay is so treasured and so ecologically important that it has been declared a protected natural area. Kept forever free from development so that it remains exactly as nature made it. Beneath the calm surface of the Sea of Cortez glides the largest fish that exists anywhere on Earth. The whale shark can reach lengths of up to 12 meters and weigh several tons. Yet, despite its staggering size, it moves through the water without urgency and without any visible effort. Its great tail sweeps slowly from side to side, propelling its massive body forward with serene, unhurried grace. Its enormous mouth, wide and forward-facing, remains open as it swims, filtering thousands of liters of water every single hour. Inside, fine, comb-like structures trap the plankton and tiny organisms that make up its entire diet. The skin of every whale shark is decorated with a unique pattern of pale white spots and lines, as individual as a human fingerprint. Marine researchers photograph these patterns to identify and track individual sharks as they travel across entire oceans. Despite their immense size, whale sharks are utterly gentle and pose absolutely no threat to humans. They are peaceful filter feeders, content to drift through the warm water in search of plankton. The Sea of Cortez, and particularly the protected waters of La Paz Bay, is one of the most reliable places on the entire planet to encounter them. To slip into the water beside one of these gentle giants, to swim alongside a creature the size of a school bus, as it regards you with one calm, ancient eye, is an experience that humbles and transforms everyone fortunate enough to share it. Baja California is a thin ribbon of land suspended between two seas. From the bustling border of Tijuana to the wave-carved arch at Land's End, this peninsula holds worlds within worlds. Deserts and coral reefs, snow-capped peaks and glowing seas, ancient missions and flying rays. We have traveled together through 35 of its most extraordinary places. We have stood beneath cacti older than nations, swum beside the largest fish in the ocean, and watched grey whales approach human hands in the very waters where they were once hunted. We have seen a dying reef brought back to life and a continent slowly tearing itself away from the land it was born from. Baja teaches us a simple truth the modern world has nearly forgotten: that the desert and the sea need each other, and that nature, given patience and respect, creates wonders no human hand could ever build. If this journey moved you, subscribe for more explorations of our extraordinary world, and tell us in the comments which place called to you most. Until next time, travel with wonder and travel with respect. This is Baja California, where the desert meets the sea.